Welcome to another 10 to 20 with Tanya. I'm teacher Tanya, and today we're going to talk about jazz. We're going to talk about music and learn lots of vocabulary together, as well as get a lot of comprehensible input. So, if you don't know what either of those, which I think you know vocabulary, I mean, if you don't know about comprehensible input, let me know in the comments and I can send you a video, or you can find a video here on my channel about comprehensible input. So, today I decided that jazz would be the topic because several of the learners, English learners, just like you, asked for this topic. And I love to go live so that we have the opportunity to interact with each other. So if you have questions, let me know. And I'm curious, have you listened to jazz music? Is jazz something you know a lot about or a little about? Let me know what you know about jazz music, and also let me know where you're listening from. So, jazz is one of the most influential cultural creations in the United States. It is a art form that was born here in the United States. And I have to be honest, I did not know that until I was an adult. I most likely heard about it in school or something like that, but it didn't really sink in. When we say that something sinks in, it means we've really learned it. So it didn't sink in. I'll put that word here in the chat that you can see if you're live with me. If you're not live with me, you can look for the live video chat and turn that on. But don't worry, if you're one of the members of my free More English Club, I will send you a list of these words that I'm using. This is a phrasal verb, so I'll send you the phrasal verb and the meaning and an example. So I said it didn't sink in. The information about jazz didn't sink in for me. It was probably taught to me. I may have even learned it when I do my fingers like quote marks. What I mean is, I took a test, I got a good grade, so they said, "You learned it." But it didn't sink in. I didn't really know it. I didn't really understand it, which is one of the key principles of learning and teaching that I use at English Coach 3Ts, because it is one of the reasons people are learning English and they say, I can't speak, or I can't write. I don't understand. It's because the way you learned isn't effective for learning a language. Okay, so we'll talk more about that as we go. And here in this video, you are learning in a way that you can retain it. You can retain the information, means you can keep it. To retain the information means you keep it, you remember it, you can use it. All right, so jazz began in New Orleans in the 1900s. New Orleans is in Louisiana. It's not a state that a lot of people are super familiar with, even here in the United States. Louisiana is between Texas and Florida. So those are two states you may have heard of before. Have you heard of Louisiana or New Orleans? You may have heard of, oh, for crying out loud, Mardi Gras. I had to think about that for a minute. Mardi Gras is also in that area. And that is where jazz originated. So if you think of the whole United States, go to the southeast bottom part of the United States and look between Florida and Texas, and you will find New Orleans in Louisiana. Adriano, welcome. Adriano is one of the students in our We Speak Fluency program. There's more information about that below. It's great to see you here. Ignacio, welcome. I see that you're joining from the Dominican Republic. I'm so glad to have you here. If any of you are aware, I love to read, and one of my favorite novels for English learners is based in the Dominican Republic. Hi, Ida, great to see you. Lucy, it's wonderful to see all of you. Geor Georgira from Bulgaria, wonderful. Is this your first time here, or am I just now meeting you? Let me know your thoughts and questions in the chat. Okay, so New Orleans had many cultures living there. So there were Africans, people from the Caribbean, French people, Spanish people, and these cultures and different music genres, if you will, music traditions blended to create jazz. So it has these different cultures of African, Caribbean, French, and Spanish, spiritual songs, the blues, marching band music, which I thought was very interesting, and African rhythms. So why is that interesting to me? Well, for many reasons. I was in the marching band in my junior high school. I played the flute. And I wonder, do you play any musical instruments? Let me know if you already play a musical instrument or you would like to play a musical instrument. Let me know because interacting here, putting your comments here is helping your brain to understand, I want to learn this. All right. So the musicians were experimenting, or we could say they were improvising. Let me put that word here, improvising with these different musical traditions and these different cultures. So improvising, they were making it up as they go. They're playing music and they're not following the music written on the paper. They are improvising, they're creating their own music. And the result was that jazz emerged with a new, free, emotional, fresh feeling. So, a lot of people, when they talk about jazz, will say it's a very emotional music. If you haven't heard jazz or you don't know about jazz, I'm going to give you a hint on how you can use this video, and even if you have heard about it, actually, to learn more English after we're done with this lesson today. So let's talk a little bit about the instruments. Like I said, do you know what is one of the main instruments of jazz? I had a picture of it on the thumbnail, the picture for this video. Who can remember what that musical instrument was? Put it here in the chat. I was listening to a little bit of jazz last night by Ella Fitzgerald. Um, she's very, very famous jazz musician. I should say she was a very famous jazz musician. I'm going to talk a little bit more about her in a minute. And Louis Armstrong, who just, uh, I always feel a very special place in my heart for Louis Armstrong because of a song he has that was influenced by jazz. Uh, oh, let's see, what is the song? Beautiful World, I think is the name of the song. I'll have to think about that to make sure that's the name. That's the thing about going live is I'm not always remember or know everything I want to say. So I see a lot of people checking in here live. It's great to see all of you. I see some people have played instruments. One person who has a Russian name, I can't read it because it's written in Russian, used to play the piano. Myself as well. I play piano, and that person guitar a little. Me too, same. I play piano and a little bit of guitar. How about anyone else that is listening? I know that I have students that are artists of all different kinds. Okay, so New Orleans was one of the only US cities where slaves were allowed to gather and play drums publicly. This helped keep African rhythms alive. Now, if you saw my face, if you're watching, if you're not watching, it's okay. I made the face of that is sad to me that that was one of the only places that the slaves could play music. However, it's also one of the things that um, helped jazz to be born. Storyville, a neighborhood in New Orleans, became a center of nightlife and early jazz music. So I growing up in the United States, I remember hearing stories, watching movies, and seeing things about these jazz the jazz nightlife and finding it very interesting. So I recommend anything you want to look up and learn about that. I thought one of the most interesting parts about how jazz was born is that it wasn't written down. It it was lived in the moment. So this goes back to being improvised. This new form of music that was being born was not written down. It was lived. It was expressed as it came. And it grew through the artist performing, not recording it. So for us in this day and age, this is such a great phrase. In this day and age, meaning now, in this time period, different from that time period, we record everything. We take pictures of everything. And so this uh, cultural part of the United States, I think, has a lot of story to tell us. Okay, so let me take a look at my notes about Louis Armstrong, one of the jazz musicians I think of when I think of jazz, who was born in 1901 and died in 1971. So I was only 5 when he died. And he didn't invent jazz, but he changed it forever with his trumpet sound. So trumpet is one of the instruments. Let's see if anybody has guessed the instrument that I think of when I think of jazz. It's not the trumpet or the piano or the guitar or the piano. What is that one? I said it earlier. Um, Louis grew up very poor. So we could say he grew up in poverty. He grew up in poverty, which means his family was very poor. They didn't have a lot of money. And he got his first cornet, which is, I think, a type of trumpet. I'm not a music expert, but I know they look similar. Cornet is usually a little smaller, from a pawn shop. Do you have pawn shops? Or do you know what a pawn shop is? Do you have pawn shops in your country? He helped turn jazz from group music into the music of individual solos. So we talked about how these different cultural groups came together. So he brought it from there into what individual artists would play. His gravelly voice, so you'll have to listen to him, but gravelly voice like this. Gravelly voice. Let me make sure I spell this right. Gravelly voice. His gravelly voice became as iconic as the trumpet. So iconic meaning this is what he was known for. We think of an icon on our phone that shows us which app to use. But if someone is iconic, it's like extremely famous. It is the thing you think of when you think of jazz music. And for sure, that's true for me. Um, he toured around the world and became one of America's first global celebrities. So if you have not heard of Louis Armstrong, it's very possible someone in your family has, and this would be a fabulous opportunity for you to talk with them in English and practice your English. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Ella Fitzgerald. I'm checking the time. Ella was born in 1917 and lived until 1996. So further into my life, I was 30 when Ella died. She won 13 Grammys and sold over 40 million albums. She turned scat singing, using the voice like a jazz instrument. Scat singing is using your voice like a jazz instrument into a signature sound. So a signature sound or a signature anything is something that is yours. This is what she was famous for. Your signature is when you write your name the way only you can. And Ella sang only the way Ella could. Her nickname was the First Lady of Song because of her incredible vocal control, her ability to control her voice. And her career was started by accident when she entered a talent contest just to escape homelessness. Now, this is also super interesting to me because a lot of this music came out of poverty. And I think that that is one of the reasons there's so much emotion in the music. Um, she performed with almost every major jazz musician of her time, including Louis Armstrong, Ellington, and Bassey. So she was amazing, and she's extremely well known, not just in jazz circles, but in music in general. I would say that one of the greatest teachings from jazz for English learners or learners of anything is that that mistakes can become something beautiful. In fact, I would take that a step further and say mistakes can be often become something beautiful, especially when we stop judging them as something wrong. Stop judging your mistakes as something wrong. This is my number one tip for you today as far as learning is stop judging your mistakes as wrong and instead as part of the process. And then my number 2 tip for you today for learning, especially for learning English, is to think about anything you heard today and go online and look for more information about it. Use your favorite search engine. Mine is Ecosia. Ecosia is my favorite search engine to find out more about Ella Fitzgerald or Louis Armstrong or jazz or New Orleans or Louisiana or anything of that nature. Go do some research in English. And then, if you want to take it a step further, I keep saying this phrase to take it a step further, to do more, to take it a step further, then tell somebody else about it. You could write about it. You can tell somebody or write about it. Either is wonderful. I'm going to really encourage you, invite you, maybe give you a little push to talk to somebody about it. And if you don't have someone to talk to your pet or your plant, like you've heard me say before. Talk to yourself about it. I hope that you heard something interesting today because I know that that will help you to learn even more English. I'd love to know what your thoughts are in the comments. Our next live like this is going to be about the American flag and the Pledge of Allegiance. Again, a topic that learners like you have asked me to talk about. And I'm looking forward to talking to you more about that, interacting with you more about that. And if you missed the first part of the video, it will be recorded. And if you missed the information about my free More English Club, so that you can learn more about the words that I put here, then go to the link below and I'll be sending out an email with those words very soon. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.